Hello and welcome to our brand new Formula World Series Upshift. I'm your host Pit Stop Nick, and throughout the series I'll be chatting to a variety of incredible drivers about their journey in motorsport so far, their aspirations for the future, and what life is like off track. So sit back, relax and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. I'm very excited to introduce you to our first guest. She competed with Prema Racing as part of the inaugural season of the Formula One Academy. She was selected as a finalist for the FAA Women in Motorsport Girls on Track Rising Stars programme, and this year she will make her debut in the British F4 Championship. Please welcome Chloe Chong.
It's great to be here and answer some of your questions about my career and what I want to do in the future with racing.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. Watched you closely last year. It was super exciting, especially being the first year of the Formula One Academy. And yeah, I guess you've had a little bit of time off, time to recharge, and a little bit of a winter break. Let's rewind a little bit to start with and talk about your early years. So, am I right in thinking that you started karting when you were 6?
Yeah, I started karting just after my 6th birthday, but I'd say that my passion for motorsport started probably a couple of years before that, and my longing to have a go in a kart probably was a few months before I turned 6. But yeah, 6 was a minimum age at my local kart track, and that's why I started at that age.
Wow. So where did your love of racing start? Was it watching racing, like in real life on TV?
So yeah, unlike a lot of racing drivers, I think people that I know that their parents race, their siblings race, etc. Yeah, I didn't really come from a racing family. We're quite a quite normal family beforehand, but yeah, obviously Formula One was quite a big thing with my dad, just watching on the telly. So yeah, I started to watch as a little kid. You could say maybe it was kind of like conditioning me to want to become a racing driver, but he never really wanted that. He never pushed me into racing. It was just more I found the excitement of watching Formula One, and I wanted to, I guess, get hands on and do it myself. So yeah, I started in karting, and my aspiration was always, looking up to Lewis, looking up to F1 and trying to get there.
That's amazing. So at what point did you realize after starting karting that this was something that you wanted to pursue as a career?
I think, your dream's always to become a Formula One driver, especially like when I started, it was from watching F1. But I think the point where I really, noticed that it was something that, one, I was pretty good at, and two, I was able to see, a viable ladder of me making it there was probably not until, the FIA Girls on Track Rising Stars finals. Like, I never had the financial opportunities beforehand. I was going to quit karting actually last year because it just wasn't viable. Like, it was like, okay, karting's just a hobby now. Like, to race in Formula 4 is so much money, and there is no real way, sure, being a female special, but there's so many boys and girls trying to make it through the sport that it just didn't seem like a possibility. But yeah, thankfully I got the opportunity from FDA, and then also the opportunity from Prema to pursue my dreams, and yeah, it's been a whirlwind from there, and probably, it's kind of broke into my head that this is something that I really want to make, come true. It's a dream that I'm going to keep pushing for every day, with these little games to be able to make real for myself, because racing is something that I truly love.
Wow, gosh, it's crazy how much of a barrier finance is to really making it in the motorsport world. And yeah, it's incredible that you've managed to pass that. Like you said, you nearly quit.
I think, the struggles that we go through in racing are all for a reason, and it makes success feel even better.
Yeah, definitely. And for you, because you were obviously the youngest driver on the Formula One Academy grid, has it been difficult trying to balance studying and education alongside racing and the training? And I'm sure there's a lot of sacrifices that you've had to make along the way. Not a lot of teenagers are making the sacrifices that you're doing. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so you're British, so you probably understand, like the schooling side of things for people in the UK. It's GCSEs then A levels. So when I first got called by Prema, it was kind of like just after I had my mocks for the GCSEs, and I was like, I'd studied to take 10, and now I got this call, and it's like everything switches around so quickly. We had to make decisions. I was in full-time schooling. And yeah, I had to drop 9 out of 10 GCSEs to go and race. So it was a massive, kind of conversation piece, probably for my parents and the school, but being all quite supportive, especially the parents. So yeah, it was a good thing. And I think, for racing as an athlete, especially, I'm sure it's the same with a lot of sports. you know, you get to the point where it's like you have to put your full attention to the sport to be able to get good at it. You know, you're at the level now where every little thing matters. So for me, it was like, and a lot of people have told me this, is you can't do both at once. As much as I want to do school, it's like you either have to put 100% into racing or 100% into schooling. It's not, you can't put, let's say, 20% into schooling and then have 80% into racing, because you'll never perform the same. You'll never perform with the same intensity as you would putting 100% in. So I think schooling is quite a big sacrifice for now. I'm just doing my A levels online at the moment, but
Wow.
ultimately it's just, you know, I've got to accept that I'm not going to be able to perform the same at school if I'm juggling so many things at once. And I think it's just an acceptance thing from my side, because I'm so competitive.
Yeah, and I bet that also translates into your around that. They were probably a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think everyone knew that I wanted to do it, do the racing stuff. I think it was like a bit like, okay, like we don't really have the money to go into Formula 4, go into Formula 3. But as soon as I got this opportunity for F1 Academy, and you know, people saw how I performed in the first race and the progress that happened, I think, you know, everyone in my family's become so supportive, and we're all focused, you know, on the same goal now. And yeah, basically just racing as a whole family life at the moment, which, yeah, it can get a bit tiring, but it's something that we all love, and it's something that I aspire to do when I'm older. So it's all that sacrifice, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely paying off as well. So you mentioned F1 Academy there. Do you remember the moment that you found out that this could potentially be a reality, that, you know, racing with Prema, being in the first year of this new all-female series? Do you remember that moment? Because there were a lot of headlines around it, especially you being the youngest driver. So I'm sure that was a really special, exciting, but maybe nervous moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many things that happened before it. I remember like we actually got a brand new karting chassis for the British Karting Championships, and I remember it was the middle of February, and you know, like all the schooling thing, looking forward to the karting season, and then we get this, you know, this call from Prema, and beforehand we did contact all the F1 Academy teams, but you know, they all said that I needed more practice. This was before the Ferrari Driver Academy selection, so I think what Prema had was some, I guess, prior information of how I performed in the competition by FDA, and yeah, they said that, you know, they thought that I was able to become their third driver and give it my all. They understood, you know, it was going to be a big learning curve, and I think that was something that, you know, I had to kind of set my expectations for, because I was so used to in karting, you know, being so confident with the go-kart, knowing, you know, that I am one of the best in the UK at go-karting, and taking that step to Formula 4 was definitely very much opposite things. It was very much a big step, and I think it was about, you know, slowing down and understanding, you know, that it is a new journey, that the other girls have so much more experience, and I'm just not prepared for what's to come, and it's, you know, it's going to be learning all year. So I think everyone was really understanding about it, and it was such a cool experience. I definitely do it again. It was a bit of a learning curve and not much preparation time, so I don't think I got the most out myself in terms of performance. But this year I come in with so much more confidence into the racing season to perform my best.
Yeah, I imagine the transition from karting to single seaters was really difficult, and it was probably like unlearning and relearning certain things that you'd really got used to. How was that transition? And were Prema quite supportive in, you know, helping to support you and teach you about, you know, the world of single seaters?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is quite a big step, and you need to be taught in the right way to be able to get used to it as quickly as possible. With Prema, again, it probably made it a bit more difficult, because Prema's a team that's used to taking, you know, experienced drivers with already a lot of testing. Maybe they're in their first season of racing, but they've had maybe 100, 150 days of testing under their belts. So it was a bit difficult for them to, I guess they didn't have a proven like way of being able to teach young people, I guess, basic things like starting the car, race starts, how to warm up the tires. So over the year, we kind of slowly got there, but I never like I never, so first of all, I never, the funny thing is, I never knew how to warm up the tires until maybe the third or fourth race of the season. They had to teach me how to use the clutch at Barcelona, so at the third round. And I never knew how to race start until the last round. So I think it just shows, how like how much of a learning curve it is. And I think, definitely being thrown into the deep end with one of the top teams was a bit difficult in terms of them learning how to teach me how to use the car and these basic things, because they're used to have these kids that already know how to do all these things, and they're just there to put in those fast laps and win races. So that was definitely the hardest thing, I think, just those basics. But now that I've nailed them last year, I'm ready to give it my all in British F4, and I'm super confident with the team that I've got, who are so good at going through things step by step with me. So I think it's going to be a good year ahead.
I can't even imagine how nerve-wracking it must have been. And even, I guess, wanting to ask these sort of questions because, racing with a powerhouse like Prema, it must have been a little bit nerve-wracking because of the, incredible reputation that they've got and some of the well-decorated drivers that have been through Prema and raced for them. So yeah, I imagine that was quite daunting. But did you use your teammates or any of the other competitors within Formula One Academy to, I guess, share your experiences? And I know you got quite close to Marta Garcia as well. So how did you find the dynamic of you and the other drivers?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, walking through the doors of Prem is something that you never can prepare yourself for until you actually do it. You see all the trophies lining the walls, the helmets. It's absolutely amazing. But honestly, like I entered the season last year as such like a nervous, I'd say, like a normal 15-year-old, quite shy, I'd say. And I think the team environment has let me be quite confident with my decisions and how I like address people. I think I've really gained so much more confidence, and I've become much more mature over the year. But yeah, with my teammates, I think Marta, Bianca, they've been so supportive. Actually, it was Marta who taught me how to use that clutch in Barcelona. The team were like, you know what, Marta, you got to teach Chloe how to use the clutch. So
Oh,
she got the rental car, and we went around the Barcelona like paddock car park, and she took me around in the rental car. I was like, Chloe, so this is the bite point, and this is what you do to start. And I was like, that makes so much sense. So yeah, it's just those like small moments where the experience of Martin Bianca, they can teach you so much. Like Bianca taught me a lot about how to warm up the tires, what she does. And I think having that good relationship with the teammates is always key to success. Like we won the championship not just because of singular performances. Sure, Marta did such a great job in the championship. She dominated really well. But I think our teamwork and the way that we work with each other created such a good vibe within team. Even though we had some issues elsewhere, it was always like, okay, you can go to your teammate, you can talk about these issues. And I think that's the most important thing to create a winning team, is to have that awesome bond.
yeah, for sure. And I guess the publicity attached with being affiliated with Formula One as well is probably quite overwhelming at times, I imagine, because you're suddenly thrust into the spotlight and, a lot of people have a lot of things to say about women in motorsports, especially. So how did you deal with that new wave of publicity and that spotlight?
Yeah, so I remember like people asked me before, have you had any media training? Have you, done any media training? And I'm like, no, I haven't. And like last year, what happened was they're like, okay, Chloe, you've got this interview now, you got this interview here. And I was like, oh, how am I going to do this? And lots of people also tell me like the evolution that they've seen from the interviews is amazing, just because I was literally thrown into there and they expected me to basically sink or float. So I had to do everything possible, and again, my teammates taught me so much. Like Marta, Bianca, especially on the media side of things, taught me so much about how to take interviews. The way I speak to people, I think, is very important, and it's something that you can learn with media training, but actually just being thrown into it, which I was last year, is something that I'm thankful for. It's taught me a lot, and it's made me a much better person. I think probably like on social media, I didn't know how to do it. I literally told Bianca at the beginning of the year, I was like, I don't know how you do this. Like, I don't think I can ever do social media. And yeah, the amount that they've all taught me, and I guess the process has taught me, just being chucked into it. Yeah, it's made me very unique, I'd say. It's made me, I guess, very comfortable around people. Like probably speaking to someone like you, last year, beginning of last year, I probably wouldn't have said much, but yeah, I think it's been a whirlwind of an adventure, and I'm forever thankful for the opportunities that I've been given.
Yeah, you would never know. I think you speak so well and have, yeah, such a confidence about you that, yeah, sometimes you have to be thrown into the deep end to be able to just adapt and to learn quickly. And I imagine there was quite a lot of testing and learning from both the teams and the series, given it was its first year. What would you say are some of the main things that you learned throughout your time in F1 Academy?
So I think to start off, I'd say the starting of the car using the clutch, race starts, and yeah, just in general, like those basic things. I think I learned a lot about that. I also learned, so much from these experienced drivers. I came into the series with no prior racing experience at all. Everyone else had had at least a year, 2 years of car racing experience. So it was so valuable to see those girls on track, not even just your teammates, like other girls and how they race. And I think, coming from karting, I was very good with my racecraft already. Like I would say that I'm probably more aggressive than a lot of the drivers in F1 Academy, but seeing, how they manage the tire wear, how they warm up the tires, especially like using the car and rotating the car and being, fighting the car on the limit, I think is something important that I learned from a lot of the drivers, especially on, I'd say like on me, like learning the car for the first time is very difficult to get into that position where you're sort of like teetering on the edge with the steering. So that was important. Also, I'd say the media, as I said before, is very important. You see so many different characters to me, and it's great to kind of, ask them some questions, and they're also friendly. Like I'd say like 90% of the F1 Academy grid I've kept in contact with since the last race of the season. So we're all
Wow.
quite close, and I consider us all, quite close friends. So it's a really nice vibe to have in the paddock, and a good step for me coming straight from karting. So I think I have a lot that I've learned, but also a lot more to learn this year. And I think going in with a dual sex environment, I think it will kind of make me into that fuller driver and give me some of the stuff that I wouldn't have been able to have beforehand last year.
Absolutely. That makes me so happy to hear because, you when some of you depart a series, you almost think, it was a great time that you had, but will you keep in touch? Will you, stay in contact and be there to support one another? But it's so nice to hear that you have and that you're still seeing them and talking to them and almost that support network that you can always just, chat to or meet up with and just always have that bond that you shared of that year in racing that you had together. And there are quite a few new drivers on the Formula One Academy grid this year. So for them, what advice would you give for their year and for their season this year?
The funny thing about that is actually that they probably have, like, all the new people in F1 Academy probably have more experience than I already have. So it'd be a bit funny giving them advice. I think I can give them advice, especially on Formula One Academy, is that yeah, I just like enjoy those moments. Obviously there's going to be ups and downs, but yeah, the car's quite different to what they probably already know, especially, coming from Formula 4, it's still a big difference with the brake pedal and everything. So I just say, take as much value as you can from the team because they all want to help you, and yeah, enjoy the year, enjoy enjoy the process, and yeah, I think they'll have a great year, and of course enjoy the friendships as well.
Very wholesome answer. And I think it is approximately 7 weeks until your first race in British F4 at Donington Park, I believe. What is preparation looking like for you and how are you feeling about the upcoming season?
Preparation for me, I think the most important preparation that I'm getting this year is much more testing. Last year I had 3 days before the start of the season, which was honestly not enough. Like looking back on it, that was probably one of the things that I would change for last year. Lots of the girls had maybe like 15, 20 days of testing, and it was just, having track time at a Formula 4 level is so important. So this year we've really put together a good program, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to move to Formula 4 is that you get so much more ability to have the track time. It's not like go with F1 Academy. It's yeah, it's all track time, and I think that's so important, especially choosing the team JHR with so much track time and the way that they teach you how to use the car. So I think we've got a really good package for that this year. Apart from that, it's a lot of gym work. Last year I really struggled physically, just because it was 2 weeks before I got into the car that I signed the contract with Prema. So I had 2 weeks of preparation, and I just remember, it was such a busy season. If I wasn't in the UK, I'd be in Italy on the sim. I'd be, driving to a track racing. So yeah, I never had time to physically prepare. And I remember some tracks, it was just so awful. You're sat there in the car and you're like, I can't do anything about it because you can't turn the steering wheel. So you were losing time just because of that, but you can't fix, physically something like that in a week. So this year we've really put, our hands down and really gone to work with the physical side of things. And yeah, finally, I think the most important thing for me as well at home is the sim. We've really been making the most out of it, learning the tracks, and yeah, we did a lot of work on it before Kota, so we know that it's a proven, method to get success. So yeah, really utilizing every opportunity that we get to make myself into a better driver, whether it's little gains or big gains, it all pays off in the long term.
I think people often underestimate the amount of training and the physicality needed to drive in single seaters. It's yeah, the neck training even, and the strength training, and being able to, the strength to body weight ratio is so important. And yeah, I imagine being thrown in at the deep end last year, it was probably a bit frustrating, but also you've learned so much that you can take so much of that away from you and apply it to your season in F4.
Yeah, I think it's all experience. Last year I definitely wasn't happy with some of the mid-season stuff. Zandvoort's especially physical, and there was just nothing I could do about it. Like, you just feel a bit helpless in the moment, but you gain so much experience and you take it into a mental bank. That even though it was a poor performance on my side, I'd say that it's taught me so much. And you can even see, having that 2 month break between Paul Ricard and Kota, how much progress, you can make in that much time. So I am a bit jealous that this year they have such big gaps between the races, but also, like, I think there's so much that I can improve this year with the British F4 calendar, and I think the tracks are great for learning on, especially, with how unforgivable they are. Like, racing a street track in F1 Academy is so similar. Like, you've seen Abby pulling her great performance there. I think that like all of that is due to racing in the harsh conditions in the UK. So I think, every little track time that I get, every experience that I have in the car makes me a better driver, and I've just got to go with the flow and enjoy, every bit of time that I get to I guess learn from other people, learn on the track, learn on the sim and everything. So yeah, it's a great experience overall.
Yeah, that's such a good attitude to have, so positive, and you're turning your hardship and difficult times into a positive and learning from it, which I think is so important because, sometimes getting knocked down, it can be difficult to get back up again, but it sounds like you've got a really good positive mental attitude. So yeah, very admirable, I think, for
Thanks.
early career driver. But yeah, so for you, this might be difficult and it doesn't have to be tangible, but what does success look like for you this year? Are you setting yourself any specific goals, whether that's both on, off track?
Yeah, so I'm working actually with a coach this year, and we kind of just agreed, um, there is no like positional goals, like that your success shouldn't be based off a position that you finish. Maybe if you're fully capable of winning a championship, then maybe that can be a goal, but overall, to become a driver, especially at the beginning of careers in Formula 4, there's so many more steps to go to reach a professional level. I think it's all about progress. And if, let's say you're in your 4th year of Formula 4, sure, you can win, but if you haven't learned anything, what value is that to you? So for us, it's all about small goals. You complete one goal, then you move on to the next one. So I think the first goal for us this year is to establish, where we are. For me, in the testing program that we've had, one thing, for example, that I want to work on is driving in the rain. I had no experience doing that, especially because we were so lucky with all the sunny races in F1 Academy. So that is the first goal for me, is to adapt to learning the wet. And obviously we got some more goals as well, but I'm not going to say them because I don't want my competitors to know. But the structure we have is like not a positional goal. It's always, keep pushing. But I think one thing that I would like to get out this year is to finish as high as I think, performance can get me. If I'm not performing well at the weekends. So I give an example for you. Let's say I start 10th and I finish 11th in a weekend, then I'm going to be okay. Like, I lost a position, maybe I didn't do this right, maybe I didn't get the most out of myself. So that would be, you know, a more learning experience to be like, okay, maybe I didn't achieve what I wanted. But let's say I started 20th and I finished 15th. That would be a good thing because, you know, I gained some positions, maybe I had a good start, and you kind of base it on where you are. It's like, if I won a race and I made a mistake, then I wouldn't be happy. But if I came, let's say, second, and I did something very, very well, and I worked on what I wanted to work on, I got the most out of myself at the time, then that's a positive experience. So it's all about those small little things that build up and kind of you put in your logbook basically for the next race.
Yeah, success is all relative, and
Exactly.
yeah, it's very difficult to set tangible goals, I think, because it takes them completely out of context. You need to, I guess, track by track, race by race basis, and figure out what feels right for you and where you can, you know, push yourself to, and you know, take on all those adversities over a race weekend.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us a little bit about what you think the future looks like for Chloe Chong.
That's a deep question. That's a really deep question.
Doesn't have to be a deep answer.
Yeah, I mean, in the future, again, it's not something that you can tangibly like kind of say about it. I think it all depends on how I perform. Ultimately, to get to F1, I really need to be performing at the top of the game. I'm definitely not there quite yet. I think I need a lot more track time, some time to get used to it. Every driver has a ceiling, and basically progression is never, you know, linear. It's always gonna drop down a little bit, it's going to go up, and then it's going to drop down a bit. So we're still working very, you know, among those bottom steps of the progression tree or progression graph. So I think there's a lot to come. It's just about how much I make out of the opportunities I get. And what I can do right now is, again, maximize every day that I have to better myself as a driver before I reach that ceiling, maybe in like a year or two. But the progression that I'm making so far, and, you know, just I think I've had 8 days of testing this year. Yeah, it's looking really, really strong. And I hope in the future that I can create a career out of racing. You know, it's the thing that I love. It's the thing that I want to do every day, the thing that I want to think every day. I didn't come from, you know, that typical racing background where you have those pre-made connections. You know exactly how to start. You know where to go from karting to cars. And I think what would be so amazing to see through for me is to be able to create some sort of platform to be able to, you know, give back to that racing community, give back to girls especially, but everyone, you know, that kind of wants to make a start in the sport, but they don't know how. I think it's important we kind of broaden access to the sport. You know, it's still very, very inaccessible to a lot of people. And I think it would be amazing to see more people just come through and enjoy the sport and see people enjoying what I love and understand why I love it so much. So I think that's one of also my goals in the future.
I love that. You've answered my next question. I was going to say, what's one of your main aspirations off track? But I guess that answers it.
Yeah, I mean, also I'd like to, I think off track, I'd love to start a music career of some sort.
Wow, that's fun.
I
I
really,
love
really
that.
enjoy music, so that would be quite a cool addition. But yeah, I think I'm gonna be quite occupied for the next few years if I keep racing. So we'll just have to see where that all fits in.
Yeah, that's so exciting though, and anything's possible for sure. If it's therapeutic for you, then you know maybe it's something that you start working on in your downtime, or that you
Yeah,
do to switch off.
I literally am one of those people that loves being busy. I love
Mm.
doing things all the time. Like I love just not having any rest. So yeah, definitely, like if I had that spare little bit of time. I mean, even just before I started baking for dinner, I was like playing the saxophone. So I
Wow.
I love doing, you know, I just love getting hands on with things all the time and learning new things. So definitely if I get the time, I will be either making music, doing school, training, baking, on an interview.
Doesn't stop.
I love it all. It's so great. Like I think I've gone to the point where it's like, you know, life is great. Every day I'm learning new things and I'm gonna make the most out of every day I have.
Oh, I love that. I was going to ask what your I guess instrument, or do you sing, or where is music for you?
I mean, music is everything. Like I'm such a weird person because I love so many different types of music. Like one day you'll probably see me listening to jazz, the next day it would be classical, the
Hmm.
next day after that would be house music. So you like I think it's about, you know, if it gives you some sort of like meaning, or it's all about interpretation with music. You interpret it in so many different ways, and I love listening to it, but also I love playing it. It's just switching off from racing. Like racing is so different from listening or making music, and I think that's probably why so many racing drivers love it, just because it's so calming and it's something new. You know, it's a different skill set, something where we can put our brains out, where we're not thinking about, you know, oh, what did I not do, you know, the last test day. And I think, yeah, it's a great switch off.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love music so much, and I think it's such a great tool for just like completely unwinding, or just like putting your emotions into something totally different, even if it's like you want to let off some steam or you want to relax, you know, it's so powerful. So yeah, I love that. I'm excited to see, you know, some music maybe in the future from you.
We'll see about that.
Well, I'll keep an eye out. Amazing. Okay, so one final question, and then I'll let you get back to your beef Wellington. So we'll be asking every driver as part of this series this question. So if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self, or if you were going to say something to your younger self, or you had a chance to speak with young Chloe, what would you say?
I'd say, you know, never give up on your dream. I think there were so many times, especially probably 2 years ago, just before I got selected for the FIA Rising Stars competition, where I really, really doubted myself. You know, I never thought that I was good at anything. I didn't think, you know, I'd make it in the sport at all. It wasn't going to happen for me. I basically thought, you know, it wasn't worth doing extra things to prepare for racing, because, you know, I wasn't going to get anywhere. And I think I proved myself wrong, and I'm glad I did. Otherwise, it would have ended probably then and there. But yeah, I think I'd probably tell my younger self that. I'd probably, you know, get my younger self to enjoy the racing a bit more, not put so much pressure on myself. Especially last year, I think I put way too much pressure on myself to perform, and that's probably why I didn't perform as well as I should have. So, you know, it's all about the mental game of racing, and I think it's all about enjoying yourself. You know, remind yourself why you do it, remind yourself why you love it, and make the most out of every opportunity. But I think, you know, I've been so lucky, and you know, when I've been given opportunities, I've really made the most out of it in the last 2 years. So I'm quite actually proud of how my younger self made decisions, and yeah.
In British F4 this year, and yeah, see what the future holds for you. It's very exciting, and you've got an incredible outlook and an incredible attitude already. So yeah, a bright future ahead for sure.
Thank you for having me
Of
on.
course.